It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Thursday morning, Bakersfield and surrounding communities, and everybody watching online. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Sparky, good morning, my friend.
Happy Thunderbolt Thursday.
Happy Thunderbolt Thursday, my friend. Tell them what they're in for.
We don't need no therapy. It's Thunderbolt Thursday. We're going to talk into is there some weird stuff going on in the sports world? We're going to talk about Bill Belichick in the offseason. There is something to talk about. Also, the coordinator from the Falcons, the NFL has came down with some fines. So as a Falcons fan over here.
Yep, I'll give my thoughts on that. Honestly, I agree with the fines. Don't get me wrong, but I do have it. I don't think it's a hot take. I think a lot of other people are saying the same thing, but I do have my thoughts on what we should do about these types of things.
And then we'll have the CSUB Athletics Director Kyle Condor coming in at 7:30 to talk about tonight's 50th annual barbecue. And then there was some NBA games the last 2 nights, so we'll break down what teams are in, what teams were knocked out last night, what games are on today. I know we've got some live NBA basketball right here on ESPN Bakersfield a bit later. We'll look into the round 2, and we've got some miscellaneous news and notes to go over, especially Giannis. Is it the end of Giannis in Milwaukee? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Halliburton and Giannis showdown.
I mean, we could really start there if we wanted to, but I think there's a lot of basketball that we got to cover, so we'll do that in the second hour. I think we should start in the world of football, though, my friend. That is where we have most of our expertise, I would say. And honestly, with all of this talk about the prank calls and stuff like that with the rookies and stuff, now, again, as I stated during our intro, I understand and I completely agree with the fact that the NFL has fined essentially $350,000 to the Atlanta Falcons organization, $250,000 to the team, $100,000 to defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich for what shouldn't even say what he did. From what we understand the story to be is that son came over, saw email on dad's iPad while dad walked away, jotted down Shadur's number, and ran away, essentially. Well, ran away, but you know what I mean.
I probably would have done the same.
Yeah, took his number and ran, and then decided, hey, we're going to make some funny call here on day 2 or 3 of the draft. I can't remember what day he actually got the call. But here is what the defensive coordinator had stated, or at least his apologies to Sanders and the Sanders family.
And the way the interview went down, it became the story. Like, if she was just sitting there, hadn't said anything.
Wrong one.
That is the wrong one.
I thought we were getting into Bill. So, no, Ulbricht's apology.
Yeah, Ulbricht's apology.
I'd like to publicly apologize to Shadur and the Sanders family for what occurred. Second of all, I want to publicly apologize to Mr. Blaine, Terry Fontenot, Reed Morris, and the entire Falcons organization. My actions of not protecting confidential data were inexcusable. My son's actions were absolutely inexcusable. And for that, we are both deeply sorry. The NFL has taken action, and I fully respect the punishment. We take full responsibility, my son and myself, and we will not be appealing the fine in any way.
Now, again, I give Jeff 100% credit for taking all accountability for this. And honestly, I think a lot of coaches in the NFL could take this as a lesson. You need to take accountability for when you mess up. And I think this is only fair that you have to pay this fine. However, I agree with Stephen A. Smith and what they said on First Take yesterday. You have to make an example of his son, not Jeff. Jeff didn't call him. Jeff didn't make the video. Jeff didn't upload it on Instagram for funny giggles for his friends to like.
Yeah.
And then him get some sort of Instagram fame for being the kid who prank called Shadur Sanders and told him he was going to get drafted earlier.
You know how many people on his school campus is probably hitting him up?
I know.
I mean, it was funny for a second, and then you get into it and you see the money that was fined, the other stuff. And this is Ulbricht talking about when he found out that it was his son.
So I made the Falcons aware of the situation, and then our next course of action was to try to get a hold of the Sanders family so we could apologize in person, which we were able to do. And the Sanders family, Shadur and Coach Sanders, were amazingly gracious, more gracious than they needed to be in a moment like this.
Honestly, I can only imagine that the Sanders family took this on the chin and just laughed about it because, I mean, at that point in time, Shadur had already fallen 4 or 5 rounds. So what's
Yeah, they
the
were having
worst
a
that
rough
could
weekend
happen?
already.
Exactly. But for you, and you have to think about this too when you're the kid of Jeff Ulbrich. You are connected to not just an NFL team, but the NFL team that Dion played for. You
I didn't think about
moron.
that, yes.
What is wrong with you? Like, come on, man. Deion Sanders, this guy's dad, has a long-term history with the Atlanta Falcons. Granted, yes, he has a longer history probably with the Cowboys, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, he played with the Braves.
Prime
this
time
whole
became
Atlanta.
prime time in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Don't pull that. Like, this is the dumbest move ever. I know this kid has come out and apologized. I don't believe his apology.
His apologies were weak.
I'm not going to sit here and say I believe his apology.
No.
I respect his dad for what he said and did, especially when he found out that it was his son. He immediately went to the Atlanta organization. But here's the point that I'm going to make about this. I agree with Stephen A. Smith that we need to make an example out of his son. You need to penalize his son in some way. I feel like his son should have to pay the fine, not his dad.
Yeah.
However, I think that we can't we can't only fine the Falcons for this. And here's my problem with this. And I know I'm not the only one echoing this, and I may sound like a homer because I am a Falcons fan, but we have heard of multiple players now, including Abdul Carter at number 3, Warren, the tight end that went to the Colts, was called. I mean, multiple players, or a player that wasn't even drafted got called and told he was going to, and none of those kids are getting in trouble. If we want this stuff to stop, if we want people to stop making a joke and a mockery out of draft day, especially out of these players, you have to make some sort of example out of all of them. You need to
there was
figure out
multiple players.
Yeah, you need to figure out how all of these kids got their number.
And they have to find a different route of, how they contact, how the numbers. I mean, I read more into how the NFL actually is the one that sent him
absolutely
all the players' numbers.
Yeah.
And I mean, as the week went on after the draft, there was 4 or 5 different players, including a player that didn't get drafted, which we talked about the day after the draft. But they've got to find a middle ground on, stomping this out so it doesn't happen again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels like maybe the cell phone is not the best route. Maybe it's a Zoom call. Maybe it's something that you're face to face and you know who it is. Because I mean,
we are in the future, and video calling is available to everybody. So I have to agree with that. Maybe we should. Maybe that's just the route where you have to FaceTime each other now, so it's the coaching staff, like you said. But again, we have to make an example of all of the kids that are calling, not just the young Ulbrich boy. You need to hit everybody. We need to find out who called Abdul Carter. We need to find out who called Warren. We need to find out who called the Texas wide receiver. We need to find out who called all these guys and figure out how they got the numbers and punish those people as well, because these guys didn't just get these cell numbers. Now, granted, Shadur is a special case because Shadur's phone was made specifically for the draft. So obviously this was a number that nobody had, not even his father. But at this point, like, you have to do something to protect all of the players, not just your big name stars.
Well, since we are on ESPN, you're hearing a lot about, different reactions from different hosts, but we're a little bit different. So let me call you, you're Ulbrich. You're the dad. What are you doing with your boy?
Oh, disowning him?
Probably, yes. I'm sure he's not going to be welcome to any games anytime soon.
Oh, heck no. That boy will never step foot in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Mm-hmm. Never. No, that kid is absolutely
I mean, how cool of a dad would it be if, your dad is the coordinator for the Falcons and you get to go and, meet the players and be around
and
these
you get
athletes.
That access to all this stuff that some people would kill for. And that's my point, dude. Like, this is what bugs me, and I think it bugs a lot of America too, is the entitlement that comes with these people and I shouldn't even say these people, the people that are connected to the people that are actually doing the job. Because people do that all the time. They utilize their connections and they abuse them. And this is just a common example of that. This kid was not thinking about his dad's job or his dad's career. You could have gotten your dad fired, dude. You legitimately could have gotten your dad fired.
I mean, $100,000, that's a lot of money.
And and this isn't, he's
coming out of your dad's pocket just because of stupid ass prank call.
And, people keep saying, oh, well, he works in the NFL. He's got the money. Let's not forget, coaches don't get paid like the players do, especially not the coordinators.
I'm glad you brought that up because on paper, you can look up the contract. It's like $1.5 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you look at it after taxes, he's bringing home a little over $800,000.
Exactly. So that's he lost an eighth of his yearly salary,
his annual income. I mean, that's insane.
That's so dumb. All because your kid wanted to be Instagram famous. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not paying for anything for that kid for the rest of his life. You got a car payment, kid? That's on you. You got a cell phone? That's on you, bro. You're schooling? Oh, sorry. Ole Miss just called. You got to pay your own bills.
I'm going to have that bill on our refrigerator at home.
Absolutely.
$100,000 with your name on it. Don't ask me for a damn thing, boy.
With a copy of the video right underneath.
And it gets into what you were saying with these entitled children. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get into races, but if you look at all the 4 or 5 calls that came out to the media,
they're all little
all little white boys.
All little white boys.
Entitled little white boys thinking, this is going to be funny. And I immediately thought of Beavis and Butthead.
That's exactly what I heard when you just did that. That was incredible. That was probably the best.
I'm like, somebody needs to, this is the generation that didn't get spanked because I would have known way better. I mean, I probably would have thought about it and joked around with, JR over here and be like, hey, we should do it. We would have never done it.
Right.
But $100,000, I mean, geez Louise. And on top of that, you're lucky your dad didn't lose his job.
That's the main thing to me is you could have damaged your dad's entire career. Everything this man has worked for, everything that got you the money into the college in which you are at right now. Like, I get being young and dumb. I was young and dumb not too long ago. But this, I never did anything stupid enough to get my parents fired from their career. This is just otherworldly stupid. And honestly, that's why I'm saying you have to make an example out of him and every other little white boy that thought this was hilarious that they wanted to call and, put their mouth or their hand over their mouth and say, oh, I'm the GM of the Houston Texans. We're going to take you the next pick. That's never been funny, by the way.
No.
Never once.
No.
No one's ever got famous on that. You're not on Crank Yankers like we said the other day. Come on, man.
Well, speaking of entitled white people, we'll wrap this up. If you have any comments or questions, anything about sports, this topic or the NBA last night, or your predictions, text them in 661-842-2000. But in the next segment, I want to talk about another entitled cracker.
Oh, Lord. Which
Belichick's old lady.
Oh, yeah, we can get into that.
Get into that right after this break. It's the early bird special. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I want a head nod so bad.
I'll do it. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes.
Clark wasn't feeling well yesterday, so we had to take the day off.
Well, I could say what happened. I mean, again, thank you for everybody who reached out to myself and Kimball Woods after a accident that we were involved in yesterday. But I am obviously physically well enough to come into work today, so I decided to do so. If you were watching on YouTube though and notice that I am not able to move my neck very much, that's for obvious reasons. But for outside of that, I'm not going to explain any further. I'm glad that I'm able to be here and talk sports with everybody and actually continue to do what I love. So that's all
God
that
is
matters.
good.
Absolutely. But let's move on a little bit. Let's talk about something a little more fun here. Bill Belichick and his girlfriend are in trouble again.
Oh my gosh.
So there's an interview apparently that took place with CBS in which was supposed to be mostly about Bill's book.
That's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying. Yeah. And
So he does have a book coming out, The Art of Winning: Lessons from My Life in Football,
which I have heard about, and I've seen like at least the front cover of on McAfee and stuff like that because they've been pumping it up as well. In this interview, apparently his girlfriend of how old was she again? 26, 27 years old. I don't know. She's a little younger than me.
She's a youngster.
Jordan Hudson took it upon herself to basically just step into the interview and stop the interviewer from asking a couple questions that he wanted to ask.
Did you see any of it?
No, I just read about it.
I saw a couple of the clips during, I think it was Sports Center the other day.
Yeah.
And they had asked, I mean,
is it as egregious as people are making it
just
sound?
sounds like, I've been around, friends' daughters that, know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And she was kind of sitting in the corner and the camera's on Bill, obviously, and they're, asking him questions. And one question came up where they were like, how did you guys meet? And she's like, not answering that. It's
that
like,
I remember.
You hear the voice over there in the corner, but I guess it got into deeper where she was stepping on toes about football questions and telling him, no, you're wrong. That's not the right answer. And it's just, a young girlfriend, but when it comes to football,
girlfriend don't need to be telling Bill Belichick what to say.
Yeah. Why? I mean, he is one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yes.
I think he knows how to do interviews. I'm more surprised not only that Belichick's got, a young girlfriend, but the fact that he's doing interviews in the first place.
Right.
Because, Bill Belichick from the past, he's not a promo guy.
Media.
No.
He did not like talking to the media when he was the head coach of the Patriots.
He would be one-word answers for everything, and that's the Belichick we know. But now that he's doing a media tour and all of this, I mean, it got deeper into more questions and her interrupting. And I pulled a clip from Andrew. I'm going to mess up his name. Martin from Athletic. And this is what he had to say about the interview.
And the way the interview went down, it became the story. Like if she was just sitting there, hadn't said anything, and was sort of very involved, I doubt CBS says anything in their piece. And they don't focus on that as much. When she inserts herself during the taping, that's fair game. And so CBS, the statement you just read, doesn't surprise me at all. You're not agreeing to just publicize the book on CBS Sunday morning, which, is a big show for them. They're not just doing hey, tell us why people should buy the book. If you want to do that, you should buy an advertisement. The exchange is Bill Belichick gives you his time and you mention the book, and then you do a story on Bill Belichick because he's very interesting because he's considered maybe the best coach of all time.
See, but I agree with that 100%, but she is now part of Bill's life. And honestly, has been the biggest talking point of Bill's life since he became the head coach of the University of North Carolina, because even they are starting to get annoyed of this girl.
Yeah, I was just going to say that North Carolina are growing concern. Their exact words are, we're concerned about Hudson's influence on Belichick's tenure as the head football coach.
I'm just saying, like, she's calling herself the COO of Belichick Productions or Belichick Industries or whatever the heck they're calling it.
Is that a
it's
real
not
thing?
Even a real thing. The Athletic has looked into this. I read the story last night. There is no business with that name whatsoever in the area in which they live or in North Carolina. It's not a thing. She's lying about a position she doesn't own. She's just a girlfriend / wife that's essentially trying to run this man's life. And it's not a good look, at least in my opinion. I'm not a Bill hater or a lover, to be honest with you. I couldn't really care less. I obviously hate the man for what he did to my Falcons a couple years ago, but that's on the Falcons. I can't blame that. That's on Shanahan.
I'm not a fan of the guy, but it's cool that, we're seeing we're seeing a character now of Bill Belichick, I would say, that we wouldn't have seen outside of the NFL. But I'm seeing all these headlines, and you got to be worried if you're at North Carolina. Is like,
oh, heck
how far is this going to go?
Heck yeah.
But like you had mentioned, Belichick had came out and said that they were selectively editing clips out to make it a bigger story than it was. The interview was supposed to be about my book. Now, CBS News responded with a statement saying they agreed to speak with Belichick for a wide-ranging interview, and there were no preconditions or limitations on the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, of course, going to defend themselves of why they made it a bigger story, because obviously they're getting the clicks, they're getting the views.
Mm-hmm.
And, TMZ Sports came out and reported at one point Hudson even stormed out of the interview and delayed it for 30 minutes while Bill had to go outside and talk her down. And
are you serious?
Yes, so there was more to the story than just, I know she's been saying for a while that they didn't want to talk about how they met, which even makes it scratch your head and wonder why, what
that
happened.
Just makes me believe that this entire story about her being a flight attendant is a fake story.
Yes.
I am really starting to believe that now, because why else would you, any other couple would be completely fine with saying, oh, I was a flight attendant and he was on a plane that I was on. We just started talking and it just kind of sparked from there. That's not a bad story to tell people. So now all I'm thinking is, well, in lack for a better term, OF. To be honest with you, we've seen it with Shannon Sharp. I mean, this man's got
really
millions
happened?
of dollars. Yeah. And let's be honest, when this type of thing usually happens, when an older man with a lot of money finds a very young girlfriend or wife, what's the main reason for that?
Money, 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 money.
Exactly. So why aren't you going to allow him to answer that question? Everybody already knows the answer to this question, or we think we do. But now we're starting to believe otherwise, all because you had a little temper tantrum and wanted to be a controlling, what.
But out of two guys that have worked in the media for a while, isn't this good for the book?
Oh, this is great for the book. Any type of endorsement, either bad or good, it comes from media, and any type of thing that could just turn eyes to the book doesn't matter. So this is going to benefit the book in the long run. And maybe that's her plan. Maybe that's exactly what she's trying to do. Maybe she's acting out just to get that attention on the book.
Yeah, maybe Belichick is the evil genius we all think he was in New England. So maybe.
I don't know. Who knows? But at this point, I don't think that's the case. It seems to me, or at least the way it looks, is that this is just a very controlling young girlfriend of an old millionaire that is essentially trying to control everything and make some money out of it. Because that's what it sounds like to me. Otherwise, she wouldn't be running around calling herself COO of Belichick Productions.
So you're working at Chapel Hill, and you brought in Belichick, and we're a month or so, 2 months out of the start of college football.
Right.
I mean, now he's doing a book tour.
Yep.
Where does it end? And at the point is. How long does this drag into, does it start to interrupt football? Are we going to be talking about this during the season? And how worried are you if you're, over at North Carolina?
Oh, I'm worried. I'm definitely, I'm worried about the girlfriend.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily worried. Well, I'm worried about where Bill's head's at. Absolutely. Because for those people who are sitting there saying, well, you should have expected this. It's Bill Belichick. He's famous, blah, blah, blah. I get that part, but as we just said at the beginning of this, Bill never did media. Bill was never a media guy. He wasn't somebody that was going to sit there and talk about anything, really. He was all in the football field. So for this to all be suddenly changing at this time in his life, especially when he's moving on to a completely different format as a coach, it's concerning. It's very concerning because we don't know what we're going to get out of you. And honestly, if I'm at Chapel Hill and I'm one of the officials or one of the board members at the UNC, I'm going to Lombo and I'm saying, hey, haul your boy in and start talking football, because what are we doing?
Yeah, what am I cutting checks for?
Exactly. Why are we bringing you guys in for press releases and book tours? That's not what you're here for. We're here to win football games. We had, like, let's be honest, dude. I don't know how this resurgence happened, but University of North Carolina has pumped out at least a handful of starting quarterbacks for the NFL. Now, are they great? No, but they did. Don't know where these guys are coming from and why they've gotten so much hype because it's UNC. The only thing UNC has really been great at in the last couple of years is basketball. But with Bill Belichick coming there, that is a Deion Sanders-like move that could ignite a huge love into the program.
I mean, as a sports fan, I don't think of North Carolina football.
No, not at all. But with this move, you could.
But now with Belichick and the circus that's following him, maybe
it's hard to say that it's worth the money.
Exactly. And how long are these, checks going to be coming if it gets even worse?
Right, absolutely. And that's why I think that if you are a UNC fan, or at least you're one of the board members at North Carolina, you're worried because this just doesn't look good. And honestly, I just don't like it. I don't like how this girl is controlling his life. It very much reminds me of Stan Lee and what happened at the end of his life. It's not a good look. It's really not. And it just screams, and I hate using this term, but because it's such a joke term now, but it screams gold digger.
Yep.
That's all this screams to me is girl trying to suck the money out of an old man.
And make a joke out of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of all those years you worked your butt off. She doesn't care
about you. She cares about your wallet, dude. Mm-hmm. So
and then she'll get a book.
Yeah.
So post Belichick, there'll be a book from her. So we'll get into hopefully the drama doesn't continue, but I'm sure it will. I've been through some relationships that went this way, but I'm not Bill Belichick. But we'll have Kyle Condor, the CSUB athletics director, coming in right after this break. We'll talk about the 50th Cal State barbecue, which is coming up tonight right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Oh, don't test me right now, Sparky. I don't remember that. I don't remember this. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. We have a very special guest in the building. Tonight is the 50th annual CSUB barbecue. And with us is the athletic director of CSUB, Kyle Conder. What's going on, sir? How are you?
Great. Big day.
It's a very big day for you guys. Sorry we couldn't have you yesterday, obviously, but I'm glad that you were able to reschedule and be with us today before the event. Talk to everyone on what food can they expect tonight at the big barbecue?
Yeah, well, like you said, it's a big day. It's a special anniversary edition.
Absolutely.
50th
50
Cal
years.
State barbecue.
Lord.
Okay.
That was before I was even a sparkle in my dad's eye. I'll tell you that right now.
And so we talked about this a little bit before I came on. I've been in Bakersfield now for a little more than 2 years. And when I first started here, just trying to get the lay of the land and have people tell me what makes this place tick, what's something that's really special and important that the university does. And the number of people who told me, well, we have this spring barbecue, and it is something that just really brings our community together. When we think about the mission of the athletic department, one of the things we consider a pillar of our program is community engagement.
Absolutely.
So to have something like this that brings people to the campus, a couple thousand in attendance, is something that's really, really special. And so as we get into tonight's event, we've got both primetime barbecue and Salty's barbecue serving it up. So
that's a combination that you can't beat.
Exactly. Yeah, we're bringing in the best of the best for the 50th. And then we've got live music from the Okie Dokies and Mento Buru. We've got
I know you have a DJ coming out as well.
DJ Mikey as
There you
well.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Nice,
so,
our boy.
and then we've got some special merchandise available for sale, 50th edition.
Absolutely.
And drinks and dancing and just
a good old time.
It's going to be a good time. That's right.
Down. Now, what does all this money go to, just for people who don't know?
Yeah, so great question, and I think this is really, really important to the purpose of tonight's event. Is all the proceeds go to benefit our athletic program. We have 16 sports, over 300 student athletes. So the proceeds from this event will go to benefit primarily scholarships. Even in an era of transfer portal and name, image, likeness, and all that, scholarships are still the way that programs like ours can recruit and compete. And find a way to pursue championships. And so, like I said, that's where the proceeds from tonight's event will go.
Well, fantastic. And I mean, we need that money, obviously, in the athletic department. We've had plenty of great names come out of the CSUB Roadrunners in multiple sports, but this is how you guys get the money to actually get those guys here. So this is why we need you guys at the barbecue and enjoying a great night with the CSUB family, because this is just part of the community, like you've said. I mean, I've been to this barbecue multiple times in my life, obviously enjoying it as an adult and as a child at times, but it's never been a bad thing. And it's never been a bad time anytime I've gone. So I'm very excited for the 50th as well.
It's just a massive block party, if you will. Right. And like you said, the number of people that have told me that this is where they met their spouse, or this is the place where they had a handshake deal that then turned into a great business venture or whatever. It feels like this is kind of the who's who of Bakersfield come to this event, and then this is where the magic happens.
Well, there you go. I mean, shoot, you can walk away with a wife or a business partner. God only knows.
All good things.
Anything else going on this weekend besides the barbecue?
So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got a baseball home series. We're in the throes of Big West conference play. Big West baseball is one of the premier baseball conferences in the country. We've got our first-year head coach, Jordan Banfield. He came to us from another Division I program. I'm sure you're familiar with college baseball. One of the threshold win totals in college baseball is a 30-win season.
Absolutely.
So he came to us having over 90 victories in his previous 3 years.
Hey, there you go.
We felt like there was proof of concept with him in year one with the Roadrunners. We've already exceeded last year's total wins and Big West victories. So top 5 teams in the Big West make the Big West tournament with an opportunity to get a bid to the NCAA tournament. And like I said, we're very much in contention with that. So would love to have big crowds this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for Big West conference play.
And, when I was covering the baseball team a lot, it kind of made me feel bad a little bit because there were so many great athletes that got drafted into the MLB while I was there, including Darius Vines, who started for the Braves last year. Not a lot of people knew he was from here, or at least went to college here. And that's what I think that we need to stress the most, especially when it comes to CSUB, is that you guys have the names there. I mean, you really do. It's just we need to get the fans behind the name, or to get behind the names, so that way the teams get more excited, the games get more exciting, and honestly, it just benefits everybody at the end of the day because you get to watch actual Division I basketball or football or baseball with whatever sport you're looking for at right here at home.
That's right. Well, and so one of those seminal moments. So this year we had a wrestler. Obviously, Cal State has a tremendous legacy of wrestling success. We had a wrestler, AJ Ferrari, who finished number 3 in the country at the NCAA tournament, NCAA championships. With that third place finish, he earned All-American status. He represents the 1,000 All-American in Cal State history. Again, there are not a lot of programs in the entire country, but certainly in a footprint like ours, who are as young as we are. The barbecue, 50 years of barbecue basically represents as long as the athletic department has existed.
Right.
And so in 50 years to have had 1,000 All-Americans in program history is testament to that legacy of success.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's things like the barbecue that obviously bring these kids here. Are there tickets still available for people to get to actually come down tonight? Like, how can they get those?
Yeah, tickets are still available. And we have discounts for alumni. We have discounts for kids. We have discounts for faculty and staff. And then there's also the opportunity to sponsor veterans. So if for some reason you're not able to make it to tonight's event, but you want to send a veteran to the barbecue, you can do that. All of this is available at gorunners.com/BBQ.
Fantastic. It takes place at the Icardo Center, right?
Right at the Icardo Center. That's right. The front porch of the university.
Awesome. And Sparky, do you got anything? I didn't mean to
No,
hijack.
we had a, no, it's all right. He couldn't hear me anyway. So I was going to bring up, we did have a question. I know the event starts at 5:30. It's at the Icardo Center. And like he said, you can get your tickets at gorunners.com/BBQ. I know in the past you've got the chance of pickup orders. I know some people that work late or can't stay for the event. They've got young kids that are running around. Is there still the opportunity to, pay for the ticket and pick up the food and say hi and go by? I know in the past I've worked late shifts, so I would go by, do the drive-through real quick and come over here and enjoy barbecue while I was, running a show or two. So is that still an option?
It is available. And so doors open at 5:30. We'll go 5:30 till, right? But we're tentatively planning till about 9:30 p.m. And so, yeah, if you come by anytime between there and just say, hey, I just want I
just want my food.
That's it. I just want a to-go plate, but I know prime time is great, and I know Salty's is great. So,
of course,
give me what I can get. That's available as well.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I know you've only been here for a couple years, but I'm sure you'll know we've been here. I've been here born and raised, and this is a big staple, a part of the town, especially if you're a big Roadrunner fan or alumni like Burdick over here. Just one more time, throw it out there tonight, 50th annual barbecue. Did you drop the spring in the spring barbecue, or is that just something, or is it a different barbecue?
No, yeah, we were calling it the 50th barbecue.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm super excited. I know we'll hear more about it later on the Money Wise show as well. So the 50th CSUB barbecue is tonight starting at 5:30. Get your tickets at gorunners.com/BBQ. Anything else you want to throw out before we go?
Go Runners.
Go Runners, man. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Let's take a break real quick, Sparky, and pay some bills. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And we are also streaming video live on YouTube at the Early Bird Special. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Once again, we want to thank Kyle Condor, the athletic director of CSUB, for joining us. Go out there and check out the 50th CSUB barbecue. We'll get some good food, man. It's Salties. It's prime time. You can't go wrong.
Barbecue,
It's
baby.
barbecue. If Bakersfield does one thing right, man, we do barbecue very well.
We do.
We get a
And
good
Mexican
mixture.
food.
Yeah, we get a good mixture of both of those. I do agree. But let's talk a little basketball and before we get into these NBA playoff games, because there's been a handful of cool stories that we got to mention. I mean, let's start with Luka, my friend. Go ahead and let him know what he's done.
There's a mural. Everyone's probably seen it over the years. It's the one off of West 14th down in LA off of it's on Main Street, but it's the one, I believe the artist's name was Slow, that did the Kobe and Gigi the airbrush or the it's the mural where they're kind of standing next to each other. And over there, I believe it was last week, it broke that some jackass
Went and tagged the dang
went
thing.
and tagged it and just screwed up this mural. And they set up a GoFundMe. And I was, prepping for the show, and I saw Luka donated the entire amount requested on the GoFundMe to restore the vandalized mural. And it's just something that it's kind of cool because, Luka isn't really the big LA name until recently. And, just to cut a $5,000 check and just, hey, let's fix this and get it right.
And honestly, it shows how much he cares for the community he plays for. And I think this is why Dallas misses him so much, not necessarily because of how great of a basketball player he is, because he is a Hall of Famer. Let's be fair. When this guy's career is over, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But I think it's just because of how much he genuinely cares about his community and how much he wants to be a part of it. I mean, this is huge. To the tagger who went in, again, used Kobe Bryant to essentially bolster his own brand.
Yeah.
First and foremost, poor placement.
Yes.
Poor placement. Come on, man. Like, even if you're not a basketball fan, understand what that mural means and what it is.
That's a city. That's his city.
That's his city, and that is a death mural of not only him, but his daughter. Come on, brother. Like, have some heart. Have some compassion. Second, it just really, I respect the heck out of Luka for this. Because, like you said, he just got here. And for him to just say, you know what? I respect Kobe that much. I respect the city that much that I want to do something for it. And to give this amount of money that, granted, for him probably isn't a huge amount or a huge loss, but it's still a considerable amount of money. And hopefully they can get that mural fixed and actually brought back to life, because that was one of the nicer murals in LA.
Now, trust me, I've seen some funked up murals here in town and in LA, but Luka posted on the GoFundMe, Kobe in LA, he and Gigi mean so much to this city, to the Lakers organization, and to me personally. And followed up with, I'm happy to do anything to help make sure he and his daughter are honored in the right way.
God,
and that's just something cool.
What we could have had with Gigi.
Yes.
That would have been so cool to see Gigi Bryant in the WNBA one day. Would have been so sick. Her at USC would have been really cool too. Like, oh my gosh, it is such a sad story. But I mean, again, I'm glad to see Luka step up as the new Lakers star and be that guy to fix the mural. Because one, it looks good on you, but two, it also looks good because it shows the Laker organization you want to be there, especially since they've had a rocky start with everything and how this playoff series went, which we'll get into in a little bit. But it's just a really cool story, and hopefully they can, like I said, fix that mural and get it going. Now, my one fear, though, is still this. Do you think the guy comes back to tag it again? Because that's usually what happens when they fix things and they repaint on stuff.
I would hope not. I mean, I'm hoping his homies is probably like, what in the hell?
Yeah, I'm hoping somebody grabbed this guy and said, what's wrong with you? That's Kobe. Like, why are you doing that to Kobe? I did not grow up a Kobe Bryant fan. Any of my high school classmates or friends that are listening to me right now probably saying to the radio, Burdick, you hated Kobe your entire life. What are you talking about? And it's true. I was a Kobe hater my entire life because of how dang good he was. Yep. I won't lie on that one. But I still feel for the guy, and I still feel for the situation. I can understand what he means to the city. And this is it's deplorable actions. It does not need to happen.
We'll keep it in the NBA and before we get into the playoffs in the next hour, I saw the Atlanta Hawks. Dyson Daniels won the NBA's Most Improved Player award.
Honestly, again, this was my choice for Defensive Player of the Year. I did not think Cleveland's Evan Mobley was going to end up being the Defensive Player of the Year this year, although I'm very happy to see it as a Cavaliers fan. But Dyson Daniels, it's very much, it's very much, I'd say it's a good pick. I'll just say it's a good pick. It's much easier to say that because of how much he's turned his game up defensively. But he really was one of those players for Atlanta that kept them afloat without this, tandem of Murray and Trey that they used to have. And it's really a cool step going forward for the Hawks because as a team that's been known for so long as just offensively minded and only did anything but offense, it's really cool to see that they have guys that are actually focusing and buckling down on the defensive side of the ball, and it's going to help them going forward. So I like that. And then the other one, too, that I saw was the San Antonio Spurs rookie ended up becoming the Rookie of the Year, Castle. So that's really cool to see, too. Although, like we said a couple days ago, the rookie class this year kind of fell short. Not really crazy about all the choices that went off this year.
Who was in the running? Do you even know?
No.
There wasn't a lot to choose from.
And I guess there's not a lot of big name stars to choose from, I guess, because that's what usually makes it easy is we get like the Zions or the Jaws to come in to make it a little bit easier for the choices. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because usually it would just go to one of those guys just solely because of how good they are and how big of a name they are. But this year you really didn't have that. You didn't have the Victor Wembanyama's coming in to change the game. So it just was one of those weird years.
And this year's NBA draft, I'm looking forward to because there is a handful of players that I want to see where they land. Exactly. Flag.
Like two guys from Rutgers are going to be really interesting. Yeah, no, I have to agree with you. I think this upcoming year, or at least the span of rookies, are going to be far more reliable, I guess, in terms of being stars than this last class is. But I don't think that's necessarily fair because, Castle had a solid year, 14 points a game. That's pretty good for a rookie. It really depends on the development past this, on how well you can develop this or how well this rookie class is really set up to be developed. And I just think that next year's it's just an unfair comparison. You have generational players like Cooper Flag coming in. So it's going to be a completely different mindset in this year's draft. Although, like we said, we don't even know who's going to get him. We still have to wait for the lottery. I assume it's going to be the Utah Jazz, but God only knows at this point.
We can get into, no, there's a lot of talk. I was going over NBA news and I saw a breaking story out of ESPN saying Akadin Lewis, the top available point guard in the 2025 class, just committed to Villanova.
Oh, wow.
Which was a surprise because there was other teams like St. John's, Georgia, Miami that have all throw in, even Kentucky that he was previously committed to. But I guess
I don't feel like
change of plans.
I don't feel like Kentucky has the same pull they used to from back in the day when they had John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and all those guys on the team at the same time. There was just that stretch with Calipari where they couldn't miss and they just could take everybody. Now, since Calipari is obviously no longer with the program, I just don't feel like they have the same pull. St. John's a lot of big names, though. That's actually surprising to me that he didn't go to St. John's because you're right. In terms of the development of that school in the program, it's really starting to become one of the more scary ones in NCAA as a whole. But him going to Villanova is interesting. Obviously, they can build off their past of incredible point guards, including Jalen Brunson, who's absolutely tearing it up in the NBA playoffs right now, averaging 30 points a game outside of the last game that he played because he exited with an injury late in the fourth quarter. But if you're a Villanova fan, that's a solid point for you. Obviously, that you're going to rely on the best point guard in this next class to help lead your team.
I just show my age because I remember watching Kentucky when they had Tony Delk and my first trip to New Orleans, I got a tour of the Superdome.
Did you really?
And it was the night after the national championship when Kentucky had won, and they still had the washboard with all the plays. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I probably was 8 or 9 years old.
That had to be cool to see.
But there's plenty of NBA to talk about. We held off until the second hour because there's a lot of Giannis talk. Plus, a couple teams have been eliminated, including the LA Lakers.
Yep, and we got to get into the fact that Giannis almost went head-to-head with Tyrese's dad.
I was going to ask you about that one because I don't understand it.
Well, even Tyrese said that he wasn't on his dad's side on this one, so I think dad just ended up talking too much and got himself in trouble. We'll get into that and so much more on the other side of this break. You're listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, check us out on YouTube and on socials at the Early Bird Special. Welcome back to the Early Bird Special, Hour 2. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Thanks for joining us today. We again apologize for yesterday not being with you guys. Had some crazy situations happen. Glad to be here, though. And maybe I'll be able to share that with you guys with 24 kg at a later date. But for right now, we're just going to keep it at just happy to be here and happy to be up and breathing. That's all that matters. But we had plenty of NBA basketball to talk about, including the games that I missed on Tuesday. But let's start with at least the talking points from those games, Sparky, because we already talked about it a little bit. The Pacers sent the Bucks home on Tuesday night. Just sent the third straight time the Bucks have been sent home in the first round after their championship. And there was a little bit of an altercation at the end of the game between star player Giannis Antetokounmpo and Tyrese Halliburton's father, who for some reason took it upon himself to get on the court and start jawing at the Bucks players. I don't know exactly. Did you actually get to see the altercation, my friend? Did you get to see any of this?
I saw the video of it and how they were, headbutting each other, and you couldn't tell what the hell they were talking about.
No.
And then I saw Giannis, walk back and he, gave the thumbs up like everything was cool. So I wasn't sure at first if it was an altercation or if it was just giving him some love. I mean,
and you know what's weird is the guys on NBA on TNT talked about this right afterwards, and Chuck and Kenny were on Giannis's side, and Shaq was on Tyrese Halliburton's dad's side, or we'll call him Mr. Halliburton. I should just call him Mr. Halliburton.
Mr. Halliburton.
But Mr. Halliburton and his son Tyrese have both come out saying that this was wrong. They should not have done this. In fact, Mr. Halliburton has apologized to the Pacers organization, Giannis, and everybody else involved as well, saying that this was just not this wasn't the proper type of move here. He shouldn't have been talking. He shouldn't have been jawing at the other players. And let's be honest, for everybody, including Shaq, who thought Giannis was the one talking first, really? Everything we know about this guy, and you think Giannis is the one who's talking smack after getting sent home?
Yeah, I saw Giannis afterwards saying, losing the game, emotions ran high.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, having a fan, which at the moment he thought it was just a fan.
Yeah, he doesn't know who this guy is.
So he didn't realize it was Tyrese's dad. He said, which I love Tyrese. And I think he's just a great competitor.
Yeah, and they've already stated they washed their hands of it. Everybody's good. Giannis doesn't hate them. They don't hate Giannis. But this entire move, well, let's play devil's advocate here, my friend. Can we blame Tyrese's dad, really? I mean, can we really blame him for sitting there and being able to watch his son essentially kick out the team that's been giving them the most trouble the last 4 years and finally get over the hump again and potentially move to the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think I could really blame him for being excited for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just the other side of what Giannis just said.
Yeah.
It's, tensions are high in big playoff games. And this is what Tyrese had to say after he heard about the confrontation.
I think he just got caught up in the moment. I think my dad is obviously a big personality. And I think after the game, he came on the floor to celebrate. And I think that, obviously his actions were, out of line. And I apologized to Giannis. He apologized to Giannis. He put out a statement apologizing yesterday. I addressed it in media yesterday. It's unfortunate, what happened, and there's no excuses and no place for that. And I think that he understands that. I think he just got caught up in the moment. But I understand that a lot of the dialogue has been about that, coming into today. But it was a big win for us as a group, and that's really where my focus is on. But again, we know that that's unacceptable and something that we can count on not happening again.
Although unacceptable, smack talk is part of sports. I feel like you need to be able to take it and give it if you play sports, especially at a professional level. The best of the best were some of the greatest trash talkers. Kobe, since we talked about him a little bit ago, would trash talk in different languages.
Yes.
Spanish, Italian. This man didn't care. He would trash talk you in every language he knew how.
One of my favorites is when he was playing against Pau.
Yeah.
In the Olympics. That was
the story about how the Spanish team were talking Spanish, thinking no one was understanding him. He just walked up to him and essentially called him, the you-know-what. And they looked at him like, oh, God, he's hearing every word we say.
Out of anyone, it's Kobe that hurt us.
That's what I'm saying. Dude, I totally get why people get upset about these situations. I really do, especially when it comes from a fan. But trash talk is part of the game. That's why I don't necessarily blame Tyrese's dad. Now, did it need to escalate to this level? Heck no. And do you really need to be jawing at the biggest player on their team? Heck no. Because as Joy Taylor said, that man can kill you.
Yes.
Literally. You are a foot shorter than him. He had to look down at you.
And one of the main guys that talk a lot of smack during in the media, here's Stephen A. on this situation.
I think that this should go down as one of the most embarrassing moments of his life. he should be ashamed of himself. Kenny Smith brought up how LeBron James had basically told his own mother, to sit down years ago when his mother had said something or clapped at some of the players. You don't want that as a player. And I think that Mr. Halliburton needs to understand this is a very, very big deal. Your son sat on a podium in front of the media with the national television cameras rolling and said, "My dad was wrong." You have any idea how egregious that is?
Oh my gosh.
I think
Stephen
he's
A.
escalating it a little too far there. Again, Tyrese was very much like nonchalant about it. I think much like everybody else is
Wasn't that
now.
serious.
No, it's not like they swung at each other. Now, again, is it a good look for Tyrese and his dad? Probably not.
Probably
but
not.
it's not the worst look in the world. It's not like they were actually like about to go to blows. They
Yeah, I
just
mean,
had a heated conversation at the end of the game.
In the world of sports, we've heard a lot about parents getting involved in different ways. But I mean, even watching it, and there was no blows thrown, or there
No.
wasn't any physicality. But I mean, Stephen A. is like the king of just stirring the pot.
I know. And I mean, that's how he gets his ratings on First
And
Take.
I wish I would have pulled this clip, because there was a guy on Shaq's podcast the other day that was talking about Stephen A. and how he can bring up anything and just yell about it and make it sound bigger than it actually is.
Well, I mean, if Stephen A. is talking about it, immediately makes it bigger than it is, because it's Stephen A. I mean, he is the talking head of ESPN, if you really want to get down to it. But it just, again, I don't know if the fight was that serious. I think Joy Taylor kind of overblew it a little bit too. I think the guys were trying to get her to calm down, especially when she was saying this man could have been killed by Giannis. Let's calm down. I don't think Giannis would have killed the guy.
Giannis is like the
Now he would have sent him to
giant.
he would have sent him to the hospital with one punch. That's not even a question. But let's not sit there and sit there and speculate that Giannis would go as far as to hurt him that much. Now, one of the other questions I have to state from this, though, because when we got into this series and we talked about this being a huge rivalry, there was also a story by The Athletic that claimed that Tyrese Halliburton is the most overrated star in the NBA as voted by his peers. However, I say the ending of this game specifically proved everybody wrong. I think this game is showing that Tyrese is a star. Now, is he a superstar? Jury's still out.
Yeah, he's on his way.
He's on his way. But he is a stud. This team has not been this good was not this good until Tyrese Halliburton took it over and took the lead.
And you know what would make him a superstar?
Beating the Cavaliers.
Exactly.
It's not happening, Sparky.
But it's going to be his biggest matchup. And we've been talking about since even before the NBA playoffs, when we were going into the last week of the NBA season, we were talking about the matchups. And this is how a lot of these teams, I mean, the Milwaukee and Indiana, you brought it up in the beginning. Indiana puts up points. Milwaukee's going to have to either match that or defend better. And, losing Lillard, and I mean, it went downhill after that. But, looking into the future of that game or that series with Indiana and Cleveland, I mean, that's going to be a hell of a series.
Oh, yeah. Both teams can keep up with each other very well. I think that Cleveland has the edge, though, because defensively, they are stout. And I mean, the record speaks for itself.
Well, I mean,
when you look at what the Pacers have done on the road, I think they're even on the road, and that's not going to get the job done in Cleveland.
It's going to be a series to watch.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that one. And before we get into any other NBA stuff, because we're going to move away from Milwaukee after this since they're done. And I'm sure, the rumors have already been swirling about Giannis. Is it time? Is it this? Is it that?
Yep.
And it's one of those stories that we've kind of went back and forth, because it looked like, okay, well, Dame's coming back, Milwaukee will be healthy. Now the future's showing that Lillard might be out
the whole next
season.
Year. Yeah.
And, the amount of money that Milwaukee's invested on Giannis, he's the franchise player over there. And I mean, has your thoughts about that changed?
Not since I've doubled back on him, to be honest with you. I do believe that Giannis is on his way out, not because they want to, but honestly, because it's just about that time. I think it's just a desperately crazy move is needed for Milwaukee to change this and turn this entire franchise back around. And I think maybe trading a Giannis would get you the draft picks to be able to do that. And honestly, I think moving on from Doc Rivers will be a great move for that as well, along with some of the pieces here. Kyle Kuzma is not turning into the player you were hoping he'd be, that Chris Middleton-esque young guy. It's not the same. Dame Lillard, as we said, is arguably out for all of next year. His future with the team, I have no idea, especially if Giannis is gone. I would like to see Giannis stay because it's hard to see
him with any other jersey.
Exactly. But honestly, with the way this entire season goes and knowing how the NBA is as a whole and how star driven it is, it only makes sense that it's time for them to move on.
I mean, Giannis in Milwaukee with no Dame or with, the supporting cast isn't good for the NBA.
No, and we've seen that already, and it's not good for the Milwaukee Bucks.
And this is Bobby Marks on that if it's time.
There are three things to keep an eye on. It's the health of Damian Lillard. He's owed $54 million next year. He's got another $58 million after that. He's likely going to be out an extended period of time. The second thing is their draft assets. They have no first-round pick this year. They have one tradable first-round pick in 2031 or 2032. And then the third thing is their future free agents this offseason. They created financial flexibility when they moved Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. That flexibility is probably now earmarked towards Gary Trent Jr., Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez, Taurean Prince, Kevin Porter Jr., Pat Connaughton, all free agents here. And eventually the cycle ends and you run out of options. And unfortunately, I think the time has ended in Milwaukee here with Giannis on this roster.
The money thing is really the biggest thing. But am I the only one that kind of freaked out when he said 2031, 2032?
Yes.
Doesn't seem like a real number to me. Doesn't seem like a real year. But yet we're right around the corner from it.
I didn't think 2025 was.
I know, it's so crazy. But I mean, again, he makes a very, very valid point, especially when it comes to the free agents. All, if not most, of your major role players, your Kevin Porter Jr.'s, your Brooke Lopez's, good luck paying them. Good luck paying him and getting him to come back, especially if you have to figure out this stuff with Giannis. I think it's the time. I just think it's the perfect time.
And I think like the 50+ million each year for the next 2 years with Dame is going to hurt.
Yeah.
But it just goes into, before we wrap up this and move on to the other playoff games. But, there's a lot of teams. We've talked about this for the last few weeks as well. Miami is missing that core player. Chicago. There's other teams
in Chicago.
I would love. We had this conversation yesterday. There was, the GM that we played here and there for players that are on the block, and one of them was yesterday came out that it would take 8 first-round picks from Chicago and a couple players to get Giannis. And they asked, would you do it? And I said, well, for an amount of Giannis, if you can get him under contract for 7 years. The rest of his career,
I do that. Yeah, I do that before I did Kevin Durant.
Yes,
for the same asking
100%.
price, I would say, obviously. But I mean, Kevin wouldn't pull 8 first-round draft picks. Though.
No,
That's
because
absurd.
he's maybe 8 years ago.
Yeah,
but this is Andres Snelling's on who would be the perfect fit for Giannis.
I think that the Rockets are probably the best one. They just feel ready-made. They're the number 2 seed in the West without a superstar. You add a superstar in Giannis, and oh, by the way, the Rockets have enough draft picks and young players that they could put together a Megatron offer for them without materially impacting their ability to win next year. So I think that's probably the best location.
I could see the Rockets making a move for him, but you would have to give up Jalen Green and Jabari Smith.
And that would hurt.
That would hurt a lot.
And I think they're more of a team that would be KD.
See, I honestly believe that it would be a beneficial move for the Rockets. And I was going to get into this when we got into that game. But once again, we're seeing Jalen Green not show up in the playoffs at all. I mean, he got bailed out by the boys, really. They ran with that game. It wasn't even close. But the bench for the Warriors almost brought him back. We'll get into that in a second. But maybe you're okay with that move. Maybe if you're Houston and you have Ime Udoka and you say, hey, Ime, who would you rather have, Jalen or Giannis? I personally probably would take Giannis. It's really hard to say that any player would be a better fit than Giannis on any team. I mean, you could play him at almost any position outside of point guard, really. But it just would be a beneficial move for them, especially if they get bounced out in the first round here by the Warriors in Game 6. Because honestly, I feel like that's what's coming.
Oh, we're going to get into that and much more right after this break. ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. You on R&B all day today?
Love Boyz II Men, and I don't like the Lakers. So,
Sure enough.
any chance I could take a shot at the Lakers
Sure enough.
without bashing Kobe, of course.
Natural. This is the early bird special, though. I'm Chris Burdick. Kind of
Did I
sparky.
throw you off with
A
the
little
Boyz
bit.
II Men?
A little bit. But again,
I feel like I'm a state man.
I apologize if I'm spacey today. I am still dealing with a lot of pain. In my
You're
brain.
alive. That's
I
all
am.
that matters.
I am breathing. That's why I thought we were getting the R&B, to be honest with you. I was like, am I
Well,
going to cry
trust
on
me,
this episode?
me and JR had a playlist for you today, but we.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
I steered away from it after.
No.
talking to you this morning.
Feel free. Feel free
I
to.
had some Limp Bizkit. I had.
Oh, God, really? We're going to play Rollin'?
You called it.
Oh, my God.
I had the red light special from TLC coming.
Feel free to play that tomorrow. I am in good spirits about it. I just can't. I don't want to talk about the situation as a whole. Like, it's
But
those things.
Going back,
Yes.
another team got knocked out on Tuesday when we were out yesterday. So Boston, we already expected that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, the game it kind of went the same way we've seen the last couple of years for the Magic as well. The last game, Paolo comes out a little too physical and gets in foul trouble early, and that causes the Magic to just fall behind offensively. Because when you are the last team in terms of 3-point percentage and 3-pointers in general in the NBA, when like the Magic are, and you're going against a team like the Celtics, who have for some reason just made that their entire identity is shooting threes a ton, it's hard to keep up. And ultimately, I mean, 120 to 89, yeah, that's essentially what we would get, especially if your star's on the bench most of the game. So,
And I mean, they look like they'll be waiting for the next Pistons game, which is tonight, which we'll get into because that is one of the very few teams or games that we disagree on.
before we get into that, though, which team do you think the Celtics would rather see, the Knicks or the Pistons? Because looking back at this right now, in the regular season, they're 4-0 against the Knicks, the 3-1 against the Pistons. Still both pretty dang good, but at least one of those games have been given up to the Pistons.
I personally think the Celtics would probably rather play the Knicks.
I think so too.
Just because the amount of minutes and the longer this series is beneficial for them. You know, if Detroit takes tonight's game and it goes to 7,
I don't think they get out of it if it goes to 7. I think Detroit takes it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying either way, it's going to help Boston.
Yeah.
The longer the series is, the more rest they get and the more minutes these players are on the court.
Naturally.
And that kind of sets up where, you know, we talked about the Cavs Pacers, which I think is going to be the series to watch. And then the game was at Golden State and Houston last night. I didn't catch that game. I was home late.
You didn't miss much.
No, but I did watch the ticker and I went back and forth. I saw Curry's thumb was wrapped in the post game.
Again, it's the entire game was just odd. The Warriors came out a little flat. Steph got into foul trouble early, and the Rockets just ran to like a 40-17 lead or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But Van Fleet came out to play in this game. Şengün came out to play. They really just rallied around their home fans, especially since they had been getting their butt kicked at home this entire series. And it really was just a good game for them. It was honestly the best game that I've seen the Houston Rockets play in a couple months.
So just Golden State wasn't there?
Yeah. And it even got to the point where Coach Kerr had pulled the starters in the third quarter. Whew. He emptied the bench with minutes left in the third, not even in the fourth. So they had given up on this game early. And what was crazy about it is the bench for the Warriors actually brought them back within 10 to 12. And honestly, everybody was wondering if we were ever going to get the starters back on the court. I don't think we ever were.
Yeah.
But I mean, because Steph had already taken off his ankle braces by halfway through the fourth quarter. So this game was already forfeited. I think they had already sat there and said, you know what? We'll give the young guys this game in 5. We'll go back home and win it in 6, like a lot of these teams like to do. And honestly, with the way that the Warriors have been playing at home, I don't see the Rockets coming back and surviving anyway on Friday. It's going to be a really tall order.
You think so? It goes 7?
No. That's what I'm saying. I think
Golden
Houston
State pulls it out. Yeah.
I think Golden State wins in 6 and sends Houston home.
So that sets up the second game where I watched most of this game, but it was ugly, man. The Lakers and Timberwolves. I mean, Timberwolves started out hot, and the Lakers got in between like 10. It was 5-10 in the second quarter.
Yeah.
But they won. They looked tired. I know LeBron and others played a ton of minutes in the previous game. But not only that, which I'll go to a text that we got in the first hour that said the Lakers in 5. Well, I was way off. Redick is an idiot.
Honestly, okay, that is the biggest talking point that I keep seeing is JJ Redick's coaching decisions. And I have to agree. Only because, and honestly, and I've kind of seen it a couple times in press conferences, but even him lashing out and walking out on press conferences that are questioning him, that's not very good look as a head coach. I know, tempers run and all that type of stuff, but you really think half these coaches really want to answer questions from the media that are tough questions? They'd love to be able to walk off.
Yeah.
But when you make dumb decisions like not subbing out your starters the entire second half of a game, and in this game, you don't play Jackson Hayes, who's the biggest guy on your team, you allow Rudy Gobert to eat you alive. Rudy Gobert ate you alive.
Did you see the halftime?
Yes, Shaq's dry heaving. I agreed with him.
Yes.
I was like, Rudy Gobert is eating you. I'm texting my best friend who's cursing JJ Redick out while we're talking. And I said, dude, Rudy Gobert looks like Yao Ming right now.
Yeah.
He was eating you guys alive. 27 and 20. He almost had his first 30 and 20 game ever.
Dude, they had 18 offensive rebounds that led to 22 second shot chances. I mean, that's 40 points looking at just without any threes.
They're too small. They just got eaten up alive. And for some reason, JJ thought it was a good idea to put in Maxi Kluber, who hasn't seen a court in 30 plus games. What is wrong? What are you doing?
I saw Luka fall with, I think, a minute left in the second, and that looked painful.
That looked painful. LeBron ended up leaving for a little bit in the third because him and DiVincenzo knocked knees together on his bad knee. So we thought he was out for a while. He ended up coming back in the game still.
So I went and rinsed off and got ready and, grabbed some dinner and came back to watch, and it was over.
Yeah, no, this game
was second half. And this was Canty this morning talking about Redick.
Everybody that pointed to what they thought was a coaching upgrade in JJ Redick, it sure as hell didn't feel like that once we got to the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
We criticized Darvin Ham for his timeout usage. We criticized Darvin Ham for his substitution patterns. And JJ Redick was no better in the postseason when it matters the most. And if we're keeping it a buck, it's all about the playoffs with that Lakers franchise. It's all about competing for titles when you have those two kind of stars. This is a massive failure by the Lakers.
And this is a game that was well winnable for the Lakers too. The final score was 103-96. But just to give you guys a little bit of a heads up on what the Timberwolves had to deal with, McDaniels, their best defensive player, Julius Randle, and Gobert all were in foul trouble. The team had missed 18 straight three-pointers.
Yes.
Anthony Edwards went 0 for 10. This is a guy who led the NBA in threes this year. And it took Mike Conley on the 19th, which was the dagger three that kind of won them the game in order to break that streak. They were playing like garbage, and they still won.
Still pulled it out.
I saw a video this morning of Jeff Teague and his homies talking about this game afterwards, and even Jeff Teague said it. LeBron wasn't playing. He wasn't trying. He was shooting threes. If LeBron was actually trying, he would have put his shoulder down, ran right through Rudy Gobert, and made him foul him.
That's what I thought we were going to get after his badass dunk in the first quarter. I was like, okay, LeBron's playing with an attitude tonight. Let's go.
We didn't get that. And that's kind of the issue that I'm seeing here when it comes to the Lakers is you need that play from him. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. And the same goes for Luka. I mean, Luka is a fantastic player, but when he, like you said, when he went down in the second quarter, I thought it was over right then and there.
Yep.
And I think you kind of caught that. I think that's really when the Lakers kind of gave up on themselves. They got deflated.
And what the funniest part was Anthony Edwards walking into the news conference and yelling, Ant-Man, Superman, Lakers in 5. Ha, ha, ha. And, I mean, I saw LeBron run over to him after the game and said, you better do it. You better take that next step.
Yep. Well, and Rudy Gobert came out after the game saying, we beat the best. Calm down on that.
Calm down.
You haven't beaten the best yet. Now you beat the best players for sure, Luka and LeBron, but that's not the best team. There's a lot of other teams out there that are just waiting to take you out, including the team you're going to be playing next.
Yeah, they'll play the Warriors or Rockets. And this was a JJ after the game because I want to bounce a question off you after this.
There's always a mix of disappointment and gratitude, but certainly disappointed and not something that I ever envisioned with this team. having to go in and talk to them, after losing in the first round. Give Minnesota a lot of credit. They're a really good basketball team. And I think our guys played hard enough and did all the right things. We tried to make it work with what we had and came up a little short.
So driving in this morning, I was listening to Unsportsmanlike, which is live from 3 to 7 a.m. Leading up to our show. And I know it's early because, Luka's only been with the Lakers, half of a season. And they are missing they're missing a big boy. They need a big guy because
that was the biggest question. And then LeBron was asked about that last night. I actually meant to send you that audio and I totally forgot to, but LeBron had a really interesting answer. He at first said no comment, and then he said, my man AD said what he needed to and then was gone next week. It's kind of a comment. So not that he's upset that Luka's on the team, but I think he's very much upset that they had to give up AD to get him.
That'd be a whole different story.
Yeah,
absolutely. If they had AD, because that would have filled that hole. And
if you had
like
AD,
Rudy
if they somehow got that trade done with Dallas, with giving up maybe Jackson Hayes instead and kept AD on this team
and 10 draft picks or something.
Yeah, this would have been a completely different game. This would have been a completely different series, but you need that big man underneath. And then again, they got eaten up alive due to size differential. And when you allow a guy like Rudy Gobert to beat you up, you're not going to win that game. I'm sorry.
Well, the conversation with Unsportsmanlike was, one of the hosts was saying, give them time, give the Lakers time. They'll figure it out. And the other side was should have the Lakers waited until after the season, because obviously Luka's contract deal wasn't until this summer. And if they would have held back and not got Luka, then there would have been players or options to get players like Giannis or, Durant or some of the big names that are going to probably get traded this offseason.
Right.
Do you think it was still the right choice to trade players like AD and jump on that Luka trade that early? Or, Luka's obviously going to be there for the next probably decade.
Yeah, if they have anything to say about
post LeBron.
I think it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda situation in which it's easy to sit here and say now that, if they would have waited, they could have had both instead of just one. When it comes to the money aspect of the NBA and all of that stuff, I think there's a lot more hoops to jump through than people really realize. And I just don't think it would have worked out financially. I really don't, because if you still had LeBron and AD on the team, there's only so much money to go around. And as we've said and we've seen, teams believe if you just get 3 superstars, you're going to win the championship. That's not how it works. The Celtics didn't win it that way. The Warriors never won it that way. It was all based on the guys that were around them and the role players that were helping them get there.
Exactly.
And honestly,
the bench players.
Yeah, the Lakers need to learn that if they haven't already. You have had now multiple years where, yes, you've had superstars on your team that should lead you to the promised land, but the people you have put around them have been absolute arse.
Garbage.
Like Gabe Vincent, Maxi Kluber, Jackson Hayes. The list goes on. Finney Smith. Are you serious? Like, you're the Lakers, right? Everybody wants to come play for you, right? Okay, well then go get guys for this bench that are meant to be there and can help LeBron and Luka get you to the promised land like you want. That's step 1 if you're the Lakers. Step 2, talk to JJ Redick. Tell him you can no longer do what you're doing in terms of the media and stop with these roster moves at the poorest of times. You are in the playoffs, good sir. This is not the time to be changing up your roster and trying something new, as Jackson Hayes said.
Yeah.
That's so dumb.
Let's
not
stop play a center in a game that we can get knocked out for.
Exactly. Like, that doesn't make sense. Go get a center. Go get guys that can help. Maybe re-sign Kyle Kuzma. Maybe he can come help you. I don't know, but anything will benefit the Lakers outside of what they have right now. And honestly, the other question that keeps arising as well is LeBron coming back? Because remember, everybody kept saying the year after LeBron plays with his son, he's done. Well, guess what year this is?
He played with his son.
Is LeBron done? Is he going to retire?
They asked him in the post game. He said, I don't have an answer for that right now.
Right now.
And
that's what I'm saying.
It wasn't
a no. It wasn't a yes. So he is contemplating it. He is very much thinking this could be the end of the road. I could be done. or he holds out for a couple more years and tries to play with Bryce too. Maybe. We'll see.
That would be crazy.
That would be wild, but it is what it is.
We'll go over tonight's game and into round 2 right after this break. ESPN Radio, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. Spark, we got 2 NBA playoff games tonight we have to talk about, starting with the Pistons and the Knicks. In Detroit, can the Pistons break this 9-game home losing streak in the playoffs? Their last home game they won, 2008, against the formerly mentioned Boston Celtics of Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce era. And honestly, at this point, obviously it's a win or go home. I mean, Knicks are leading 3-2, but as I said earlier, Sparky, I have a lot of faith the Pistons are going to pull off this game tonight. And honestly, going into game 7, where they've won 2 games at the Garden already, I think the Knicks might be in trouble.
And that one was on Tibbs. Totally. He could have called the timeout, got Brunson back in. And
You want to talk about questionable coaching methods?
Right. But I think the Knicks come back with the chip on their shoulder, and I think they pull it out tonight. I'm hoping. But then again, they have to turn around and play Boston, which is not going to be an easy pull. And then it goes into game 6 between the Nuggets and the Clippers. Denver up 3-2, and you can hear that game right here on ESPN Bakersfield. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. What you think about that one?
I like what I'm seeing from the Nuggets, at least. Now,
Really?
I mean, based on what we saw in game 5, yeah. They moved away from the 40-minute starters. I mean, that you got Russell Westbrook back. He looked fantastic. So at this point, I think you're looking a little bit nicer if you're the Nuggets. I still think that you're going to be going up against a really, really tough Clippers team tonight, though. You still have to deal with Kawhi Leonard, and if James Harden shows up to be James Harden.
I sure hope so.
And at this point, like, obviously you gave Joker a little bit of a break last game, even though he did get his, I think it was 21st playoff triple-double in that game, which is wild to think about. This guy's got 21 playoff triple-doubles.
Eyes closed.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. But Jamal Murray stepping up and being the playoff Jamal Murray that we've all been waiting to see, because he hasn't exactly done that yet. Dropped 43 on him last time. Will we get that again today? I'm not sure.
Listener says Denver takes it tonight.
You think so? I mean, good point.
I think the Clippers can pull it. I would like to see a game 7 of that series, and I would like to see the Clippers come back and pull that series out. I know Denver's had a lot of issues in the last few months, but my question is, can either team match up with OKC?
That's the big question. I think Denver matches up a little bit better against OKC, but I mean, it's an interesting matchup either way, right? If you play against Denver, can any of OKC's big men really keep up with Jokic and slow him down? And vice versa, can Jamal Murray actually play defense well enough on SGA or maybe Christian Braun, since that seems to be their number one defender in Denver for the guard position at least. So whoever can slow down SGA. If I'm the Oklahoma City Thunder, I'd rather see the Clippers because I think that they're a little more inconsistent at the moment. Now,
and you don't ever know what Harden you're going to get.
Exactly. Now, with the Nuggets players, at least, you know what you're getting. You're getting a triple-double monster out of Jokic. You're getting a shooting threat out of Murray. And all the supporting cast usually picks a good game to actually come out and show what they can do. Outside of that, with the Clippers, you have some pretty impressive play from Zubac, in my opinion, this year. If Kawhi can step up and be the guy we all know him to be, or at least knew him to be when he was with Toronto and with San Antonio, it would be a threat. But the big question to me is still the inconsistencies of James Harden and what they can or can't pull off with him. So that's
Zubac is the guy that I was trying to remember, but he was the one that got second in most improved player this year.
Yes,
and he's
deservingly so, very much deservingly so. The former Lakers center as well. I mean, I'm sure you guys are probably angry to see his development this year, understandably so. Again, I just. With this being the first back-to-back losses for the Clippers since March, that is worrisome in a way because how they respond to that is going to be key. And honestly, going forward, if you do take on Oklahoma City, I'd expect you to lose 2 games in a row. So how are you going to respond in this game is going to be a really big tell if you can beat the Nuggets in 7, if not keep up with Oklahoma City Thunder in the next round. So,
and looking into the next round, as OKC is waiting on that Denver and Clippers matchup to wrap up. And then Timberwolves advancing last night.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for the Warriors and Rockets,
which will be settled on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And then over the East, the Cavs will now play the Pacers in round 2.
Starting
after
on
they
Sunday.
got past. Is that the game 1 is in
Sunday? Yeah.
And that's in Cleveland, right?
Correct.
And then the Celtics wait for the Knicks and Pistons. Well, fingers crossed the Knicks close that out tonight and probably be game 1 on Sunday as well.
It'd be an interesting series either way when it comes to the Knicks and the Pistons taking on the Celtics. I just don't know. I'm a big skeptic when it comes to these long breaks in the playoffs because usually, in my opinion, that leads to rust or
slow.
I always want to call it ring rust because obviously that's what they call it in wrestling, but that's not what it is. It's just rusty play in basketball or football. And you don't want that in the playoffs. When you're hot, you want to stay hot, which means you want to play as much as humanly possible and continue the hot streak. So when it comes to the Celtics, I don't know if this entire time off is going to really benefit them. When it comes to Cleveland, I think it was the perfect amount of time off. You only got a day or two, and you're already turning around to take on an opponent that you know very, very well in the Pacers. So,
and I'm hoping for some good basketball tonight, because that will only make it easier tomorrow for a better show when we have Bolt Brady. Because if he comes in and looking at some game sevens, and those will be some interesting conversations with where to make money on these game sevens, especially the Detroit and Knicks game.
There's got to be a different way of thinking when it comes to these closeout games, right? Like, I mean,
We
we've
gotta
seen a
make some
couple of
money
them.
off of it.
Obviously, Cleveland and Boston ran their teams out of a gym when it comes to closing them out. We've seen the Thunder run the Grizzlies out of the gym. Wasn't at a closeout game, but it still counts. I mean, these games,
What do they call that? The gentleman's sweep?
Yeah, well, the gentleman's sweep is the 5-game sweep.
When they get them one.
Yeah, when they give them one and they end up going home and finishing it.
But I want to hear what Bolt has to say with the Golden State game.
This is a really interesting series, and I don't know about you, but I'm just disappointed in the production from Jalen Green. I mean, you're the star of your team, and you've had 30 points in 4 games. That's not acceptable. Like, I'm sorry, and I don't mean 30 points each. I mean 30 points accumulatively.
Total.
It's absolutely unacceptable.
Well, we will wrap up today's show with some crazy baseball stories just in the last 2 or 3 days.
I'm sorry if you're a Rockies fan, but I got to rip on you a little bit.
And then we'll preview tomorrow's show, as we will welcome back Bolt Brady from Bolt Brady and Bro right here on Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That is Sparky. And as Sparky said, before we get out of here, there's a handful of crazy baseball stories that we want to share with you. Oh, there's definitely something calling in the back right now. I can say that right now. But the Colorado Rockies narrowly avoid the worst start in MLB history. At least they still have the worst start in their team's 33-year history, going 5-25 through the month of April. And they were one loss away from tying the 88 Orioles for the worst start from an MLB team in their first 30 games at 26 losses. If you are a Rockies fan, you got to be wondering what is going on. The rest of the NL West can't lose, and we are absorbing every single loss we possibly can.
And they get a win over the Braves.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, losing 16 of their previous 17 and being outscored by 78 runs.
Absolutely.
Is just insane.
Unacceptable
5-25,
baseball.
that's rough.
Unacceptable baseball. And honestly, you play in the one place in all of baseball where home runs should be a premium. You are above elevation, sir. Like Trevor Story made an entire career just hitting home runs on your team and then went to the Boston Red Sox, and I haven't seen him since, which really bugs me, but we won't get into that.
But keeping it crazy, a man fell from a 21-foot wall in right field at PNC Park during last night's game between the Pirates and Cubs.
This was did you see the video of this?
I didn't.
Okay, so I saw it this morning. Didn't know what happened until this morning, and I'm glad that you pulled the story because I was very curious how this went. But ball gets hit in the air, fans stand up as they usually do, and then you just see this individual. I don't know if he was leaning over to see where the ball went, but clearly just goes too far and falls straight down like a rag doll. It was crazy to see and witness, but hopefully this fan is okay.
Pittsburgh public safety and the police came out this morning and say the man is in critical condition.
Naturally.
And the police were investigating. But, you know, we've seen over the years, it's happened several times.
Right.
In 2015, Atlanta season ticket holder flipped over the guardrail from the upper deck at Turner Field. And 4 years after that, a firefighter attending a game with his 6-year-old son fell 20 feet about reaching for a foul ball, missed the stands in the former Rangers Stadium and passed away.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just some crazy stuff.
Guys, let's also remember it's a foul ball. I understand it's exciting to try to catch the foul ball, but if it doesn't go to you, it doesn't go to you. Let's not try to, don't go out of your way to do these types of things. These are scary situations that just ruin the game for everybody. Like, not trying to put blame on this guy saying,
oh, no,
like it's nothing like that. It's more of just like, let's be safe while at these events. Everyone's there to have fun and have a good time.
I've seen people at whether it's concerts or, sporting events,
right,
where I've had the nosebleeds before, and that is it's scary sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how you
that.
people can lean over the railings, period. Like, especially ones that are up to your thighs. You guys are crazy.
And people get rowdy.
Yeah, they do.
Luckily, it wasn't like a fan pushing another one over or something like that.
That could have been way worse. But
it can get crazy.
Well, because I'm not going to lie to you. Well, watching the video and not knowing anything about this story or what happened, I honestly thought he got hit by the home run ball.
Okay.
I thought it was one of those situations where the ball got hit in the air. He didn't know where it was. He stood up like everybody else to find it. Then he goes clunk and
like
then he
Happy
falls
Gilmore.
off. Yeah, exactly. Like, it was very comical at first, but I was like, once I actually kind of sat there and thought about it, I was like, no, that ball immediately hit. So he fell on his own. And that's a very scary situation to be in, especially the way he fell. Because like I said, when I'd say it looked like a rag doll, I'm not kidding. Like, he didn't fall like he was just flat on his face. He was cycling for a while and landed in a very awkward position. I'm very much hoping this person is going to be okay and will get out of this with, some minor and major injuries, obviously. But this is a 2-story fall, essentially.
Yeah, that's
not
a fall, man.
Yeah, that's not something. Actually, it's a 3-story if you really think about it, because the field level is even below
one.
Yeah, so it's a scary situation, and hopefully nobody is hurt or sees legal issues because of this, because I'm sure PNC Park, along with some other people, will most likely be seeing some sort of lawyer for damages for this.
Of course. And then there was some more weird news.
So yeah, this one's interesting because I sent this to you yesterday while I was just resting at home, and
The more I read into it, the more
weirder
it got weirder.
Yeah, so Mariano Rivera and his wife have been named as defendants in a sexual abuse case. Now, before we get into this, they did nothing. They're not being charged with any criminal act or any of that nature. Basically, what this is there was a young lady that frequented their church that Mariano's wife is the senior pastor for. And at this church, she was sexually assaulted by one of the older children. And basically, what is happening is they are now a part of this lawsuit because they want they want to be paid for not being protected the way they should have been. They're basically saying that the Riveras neglected to protect this girl properly, so this didn't happen to her, which happens a lot in the world. So like, this isn't something that's new. This isn't something that's being slapped on them for no reason. Like, this is just another neglect suit essentially, and will be seen going forward, most likely with the Riveras getting slapped on the wrist for this and probably having to do something to help
cut a check.
Yeah, cut a check or pay for this girl's healing. And honestly, it's a situation that, like I said, the Riveras had nothing to do with.
Yeah,
they're not the sexual abusers.
They haven't been charged with anything, but they are.
No, but
named
they're
in that
essentially,
suit.
yeah, they're essentially just the adults that should have been there to protect this girl, and they weren't. And because they're the main proprietors and main donators to this church, and obviously Mrs. Rivera is the main pastor of the church, from what I understand, or a senior pastor is what they call her. So they are directly involved in the lawsuit now.
And Angels Mike Trout leaves the game against the Mariners yesterday.
Okay. Can I just throw this out into the ether? I feel so bad for Mike Trout. I have always felt bad for Mike Trout. Mike Trout is the most wasted superstar baseball has ever seen. He could have been the greatest of all time. And I say wasted on the I say wasted because of the Angels. The Angels did this to him. Trade him away. Please get him out of LA. Send him to Philly. I know I'm saying that as a homer, but the boy is from Philly. He wants to play there. Send him to Philly. Send him whoever the heck you want. I don't care. But Philadelphia, save this man, please, before he is injured again and we don't get to see him in baseball ever again. And he never gets a chance at the playoffs.
Well, they took him out of the game for some knee soreness. He came out and said, when it happened, I knew it was like a weird feeling, but now after getting some treatment and stuff, he said he should be better by today.
Just putting it out in the ether. Philly, he doesn't want to play there. There's already injuries popping up. Save him from himself, please. Save him.
Let's see the best of him, not the worst.
Exactly. Bring him to Philly. Let's win a chip with Mike Trout. It'll work. I promise. But thank you guys for joining us. Join us back here again tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. for the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Bolt Brady from Bolt Brady and his bro tomorrow, one of the top handicappers in the world. So if you got any questions, feel free to text in tomorrow. Join us back here. Sparky, let's get out of here, my friend.